Yes, sir.
Not messing up. Why does Delhi stay, like, why are they part of the Mongols and the Mongols are like over in like Egypt?
So that was the thing with them is they were traveling nomads. So when they came in, they were part of this dynasty that's just traveling around trying to take these lands over. A group of them settled up there and made the Delhi Sultanate. Yeah.
Okay.
So we got mostly through this. So
Whoa.
We didn't fully get through
we didn't fully get through this?
Yeah,
Okay, well, so we talked about the archipelago and where it's located here in Southeast Asia, correct?
Yeah.
So they had one really important piece of land, piece of territory that benefited the empire a lot like it benefited India, and that is the Strait of Malacca. Did we talk about the Strait of Malacca?
Yeah.
Okay, that's perfect. So what is so important about the Strait of Malacca is it's the most northern point where you can cut through Southeast Asia. So right here is the Strait of Malacca, right where the line is. And there's no point, not a good point at least, between India, between Africa, Arabia and Persia, where you can get through to this part of China, which I don't know if you can see there. There's a bunch of little dots, each dot representing hundreds of thousands of people at this time, and the biggest city in the world, which is Beijing. We talked about Vijayanagara being the second biggest city in the world. Beijing at the time was the biggest city. So that connection led to a lot of the same effects that India had in southern India, where lots of items were coming in. Many of the traders and the merchants were stopping through the Strait of Malacca at some of the different communities set up there, a lot of the different trading ports that were set up in there. So it was very important. They were probably making a ton of money off possibly taxes. They could have been trading just like India was. So this really benefited this empire just as much as India. But the main reason I wanted to incorporate this particular empire along with the other two that were in India is, well, first of all, it's an example of Southeast Asia. So we're looking at Southeast Asia now. But also, this is a Buddhist empire, when the other one was a Hindu empire in the south, Vijayanagara, and the Sultanate was an Islam empire, right? So we'll get to it a little bit more in the next slide, but it shows how these ideas were diffusing across this plain of land. This whole section of the Indian Ocean was sharing ideas. They were beginning to share religions, and religion is certainly one of them. And then back here, I know earlier in your notes, they lost control to the Chola Empire, which, if you remember back to yesterday, this was in southern India right before Vijayanagara was. Well, they were the only major empire in southern India. So it's kind of interesting that they come all the way from India over to Indonesia, but that's what happens when, there's a valuable piece of land and trade's so effective, so they moved a little bit. Right. But like I was saying, the idea of religion is moving along, but it's not just religion, and it's not just the spread of mouth. Places where big empires were conquering smaller kingdoms. Well, some of these empires that we looked at are a little bit more tolerant of Hinduism or Islam. But at the same time, it's going to convert a lot of people, especially in northern India with the Sultanate coming in. A lot of those people converted to become Muslim. So that's an idea spreading across land. And then trade, like I was saying, people are setting up communities. These merchants are setting up communities along the coastlines. They bring their ideas, they change their ideas, they take their ideas back to Africa, they take their ideas up to Beijing and China. And then to bring those two together is proximity. The closer you are to people, the closer people are to you, the more likely you're going to take on their ideas and start to really embrace their culture. And I mean, that's how culture is created, is being around people and creating some meaning in the stuff that you're doing. Being part of religion, everyday life. All right, so we're going to talk about a specific example of this in Sufism. So Sufis is a sect of Islam that became very, very popular in India, right? So India, which is, between the time we're looking at 1200 and 1450, a split of a lot of people who believe in Islam, as well as a lot of people who believe in Hinduism. So Sufism is the sect of Islam that protects the Hindu identity and protects the Hindu values and allows them to celebrate and continue their traditions while still worshiping a more Muslim religion, which, I wouldn't call it a hybrid. I don't think that Sufism is a hybrid between Hinduism and Islam. However, this is not something that this is not an idea that starts and spreads without the two living in close proximity to each other and sharing the same ideas and wanting to come up with an alternative. So we look back at our learning target. How does South Asia and Southeast Asia develop as a country? Well, we talked about it with economic expansion. That's huge, but the ideologies are also expanding and changing and morphing into this thing that many people start to believe in. And that is a massive development for society, especially social. So I was telling the other classes yesterday, I've taken the AP classes before. I've taken AP exams, especially the ones where there's a lot of writing involved to answer their questions. They love specific examples, right? So this is a good example of a way that people have developed, and people have developed their ideas into something that is better for people in proximity. You never know. Something in your back pocket. You're going to have plenty of examples throughout the year. You already have a bunch. So, these things are really important. All right, and then the last thing we want to talk about is the caste system. Who remembers the first few days we were talking about the caste system?
Caste system is like, there's different roles that get put into, and if you do good in that role in your life, when you die, you get reincarnated in the highest system, and so you eventually will leave it in nirvana.
Right, now who practices the caste system?
Hindus and Buddhism.
Yeah, the Hindu people specifically really embrace this. Well, in India, where there's a changing culture by the day, that are more influenced by Islam beliefs, well, the caste system isn't going to work as well as it used to. And that's probably the biggest reason why the caste system isn't as well utilized. It's still there, and it's certainly still there, but it's changing now. The caste system is changing. Economic expansion is a big reason for this too. With trade, especially maritime trade, that is something new to so many people, there's going to be a lot more opportunity for people that might be in a lower tier of the caste system. What if in one of the undesirables or untouchables, or the bottom of the caste system found this niche, this opportunity in trade to farm or sell things that he was being traded or anything. There's just so much more opportunity with economic expansion that, there's now this idea that, well, maybe I fall out of this caste system. I don't believe in it as much now that there's a different belief that, these Islam people are teaching me their beliefs and I'm making all this money. Why would I, And then urbanization. You see along the coastlines, a lot of people are starting to settle in communities here along the coastlines, and it's the diffusion of ideas. All the ideas are coming through these cities, and they're changing people's minds and making different things happen. So the caste system definitely undergoes a lot of change in this era of time, which is due to these three regions here. All right, slow down, I'm moving fast. So now we're going to work on a little activity here. And this is something that you all have probably seen before, all right? I've got an individual sheet for each one of you, so don't worry. You're not behind on anything. I haven't passed them out yet. So our job, Mr. Ellis's most importantly, and mine as well, is to make sure that you are as prepared as possible for your exam. And a lot of that is becoming familiar with the exam, right? Well, we have a short answer question coming up here in probably the next week or so that'll be on this content. To prepare for that, we're going to try to use strategies that we might use on a written response on the test. This is one that is pretty familiar to many of you likely, and you might have used it when you did the test last year. How many of you all took the APH test? A lot of people. So this could be familiar. It's a web chart, and basically these are your main ideas, and for each main idea you web off another web sort of like this, and you add notes to that about what you know. Now these notes are the most important things. They're the most important ideas about the topic that you could include to make your essay, make your short answer as full and as close to 5-point work as possible, right? So we're going to work on that today. The only difference between today and what's going to be on the test in May, whenever you'll take it May, is you have your notes today, all right? So we're just going to practice with the notes that you all have. I'm going to pass out each one of you a paper, and I just have the topics like the first slide, and you all can draw your web, and whatever you put on here today, you will be able to use on the short answer whenever we do it, whether that be next week or the week after, all right? You'll have a few minutes to do it. Like I said, all this stuff is already on in your notes, so it shouldn't take too long.
For trade.
Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, for trade, is it just trade in general or trade in a certain area?
This is all going to be related to India.
Okay.
So anything that's on this sheet is related to India and the impact that, Southeast Asia as well, so the Strait of Malacca and things like that. Yeah, just make sure anything you know about this topic you add on here. Add your own topics on these. There's no reason to limit yourself to what I put on here. Any other questions? Yes. We'll be checking, it'll be turned in with your short answer, and it'll be all within that. So it'll be engraved within that. So just make sure it's completed. Anything you put on there is just to help you. So this is for you all. Yes, absolutely. Use your notes. Please use your notes.
We said that like 3 times.
You can do more than 2 boxes.
Absolutely. This is just all I can fit on here.
And I can just tell something more.
Because right now, we're not so worried about the content knowledge. You all don't have that much content knowledge from this class, at least. So the important thing is just making sure that you can take that knowledge that you will soon get and apply that to a short answer. That's what the purpose of this is. And we'll probably work for about 5 to 6 minutes. With all your all's notes there, it probably won't take too terribly long. If we need more time at the end, I'm sure we can buy a few minutes. Just in general, what you know about India. Think about what we lived in and different changes that might have been affected. So pre-1200 would be a good guess. Yeah. take about 3 more minutes. At about 10 o'clock, we'll finish up and talk about what's going on.
Do you think the 5 pillars, we should list the 5 pillars, or?
I don't think you will have to do that for this short answer in particular, but I would definitely list what you know about Hinduism as it relates to this time period.
Other capitalism is changing, and how community built under India is the most popular for the next
Yeah, how it can relate to what we're working on in this specific example. Just 1 more minute. It's alright if you're not completely finished up, but get those last ideas down. I see a lot of really good work. Real complete. Alright guys, if I get your attention up front for just a second. I know a lot of you all might not be completely finished up, but I saw most people were on their 6th spots, if not finishing their 5th one up. So these we're going to use, like I said, for the short answer. And when we do the short answer, we'll probably work in small groups so you all can bounce some ideas off of each other. And make sure that you all get the most perfect short answer that you possibly can. This stuff is really, this web here is really nice for you all. Just think, in the last 5 minutes, 6 minutes, you all created a study guide for yourself that you can use for any test coming up, the short answer, and just a resource to use. So hold on to these until we do our short answer, and we'll turn that all in together and make sure that all y'all's work is complete. So make sure you don't lose these. And if you have to, you can finish it up. So that's what we'll be planning on doing here soon. So that's all for me today, I think. I'll throw it back to Mr. Ellis. Thank you all for being cooperative with the videotaping going on. With that being said, don't take it all out on Mr. Ellis. I'm sure he would not appreciate that. But we'll turn the video off, so thank you all for working